The voice and face of it all was Don Cornelius, a man in control, smooth and self-assured. Off-screen, however, perfection wasn't always what it seemed. As people applauded and musicians performed, Don had a secret that not many people were aware of. It wasn't wealth or celebrity. It was something deeper, something that truly characterized him. Even the most devoted viewers were unaware of the full extent of the man's involvement in creating the Soul Train cultural phenomenon. Soul Train wasn't your typical TV program. A social movement took place. Don Cornelius, a disc jockey and reporter for a local radio station in Chicago, sought to bring the thrill of his live music broadcast to television in 1970. The inaugural episode included Jerry Butler, The Twilights, and The Emotions, and it was a low-budget, black-and-white program on WCIU-TV. And despite its simplicity, the show had a strong point. In an era when television was uncommon, it gave black music and black culture a platform to shine. The popularity of the show was noted by major sponsors. The Afresheen hair care product producer, Johnson Products Company, has partnered to support Soul Train's growth. They helped Cornelius expand his presence beyond of Chicago. Only 7 locations, including Los Angeles, Detroit, and Philadelphia, saw Soul Train's official debut in national syndication on October 2, 1971. It quickly became a national phenomenon, showing up in many more places before the end of its first season. At the time, there was nothing comparable to Soul Train on television. It was the first show created by black people for black people to be syndicated nationally. No commercial mainstream show highlighted African-American music, dress, and culture as much as Soul Train did, despite the fact that PBS did have the program Soul. In addition to giving black performers a stage, it gave viewers across America a chance to see themselves on television in a genuine and joyous manner. The show truly took off after moving from Chicago to Los Angeles. Naturally, Don Cornelius was the program's face. The renowned Soul Train line, in which dancers performed one at a time, was a cultural sensation. His distinctive sign-off, love, peace, and soul, his calm manner, and his slick voice made him famous. Cornelius presented Soul Train for nearly 22 years, from 1970 to 1993. Even after stepping away from the spotlight, he remained deeply involved in the backstage, making sure the show stayed loyal to its essence. Celebrities and singers such as Shamar Moore, Dorian Gregory, and Maestro Clark eventually took over the hosting duties, until the series concluded in 2006. Soul Train had more episodes than any other nationally syndicated show on American television at the time it aired, totaling over 100. Regardless of the numbers, its impact was unparalleled. In addition to introducing audiences to the biggest R&B, soul, and hip-hop artists, it had a lasting impact on dance, fashion, and culture. The Soul Train brand is still present today through pop culture illusions, cruises, and the Soul Train Music Awards. What started out as Don Cornelius's humble notion in Chicago grew into a cultural phenomenon that still inspires people today. The Soul Train was suspended for what reason? Soul Train hit its breaking point in 2006 after 35 incredible seasons. Instead of producing brand new episodes, the program began airing old reruns under the moniker The Best of Soul Train. Highlights from the 1970s and 1980s were the focus of the reruns, which served to both remind viewers of the show's glory days and mark the beginning of the end for fresh content. In addition to being creative, the decision was also sensible. The show's ratings had started to drop at the end of its run, falling below 1.0 on Nielsen ratings. By this time, Soul Train had been moved from its original Saturday afternoon time slot to late night or overnight on the majority of stations that still broadcast it. It was harder for people to keep turning in after this move, especially younger viewers. Behind the scenes, the problem was exacerbated by corporate challenges. In late 2007, Tribune Entertainment, which had been Soul Train's distributor for decades, closed its syndication division. As a result, Don Cornelius Productions was forced to find a new home for the program. In the end, a distribution agreement was established with Trifecta Entertainment and Media. However, momentum had started to wane by that point. By 2008, the majority of stations have stopped using the replay package. Unquestionably, Soul Train's magic as a new platform for innovative dance, music, and culture had worn off, even as the replays offered sentimental insight into the show's past. The series finale, however, did not lessen its impact. Soul Train was a cultural phenomenon for 35 years, in addition to being an entertainment act. The hippiest journey in America left a lasting influence in dancing, music, and the nostalgia of individuals who grew up on the show. Even if production ended, Soul Train's new ownership and attempted rebirth, the story of Soul Train didn't really end with the airing of the last episode. Off-air, efforts were made to maintain the brand, revitalize its history, and adapt it to a changing entertainment landscape. However, the intricacy of history, which is full of turns, ownership changes, and a lot of hubris, comes with having so many iconic franchises. In the beginning, Don Cornelius was likewise cautious about the show's topic. In the early days of Soul Train, it was hard to discover videos of their interviews and performances on YouTube. Cornelius was emphatic about prohibiting the sale of pirated VHS or DVD sets because he was concerned about the show's reputation and opposed copyright infringement. He wanted to ensure that the brand was respected and preserved in excellent shape. Significant changes occurred in 2008. Madvision Entertainment purchased the rights to the complete Soul Train library from Cornelius. The change signaled a new era, but the contents of the agreement were not disclosed to the public. Unfortunately, by September of that year, Soul Train had been removed from the schedules of several TV stations, including the Tribune-owned ones that had carried the show for years. The show was no longer distributed, according to its official website. However, Madvision saw an opportunity to revive Soul Train for a fresh audience. They finally brought classic performances online in 2009, when they launched an official YouTube account, allowing fans to relive the magic. Additionally, they signed an agreement with Time Life to create DVD sets of the show, giving nostalgia a tangible form. In the same year, Madvision began airing repeat episodes and partnered with Bet-Centric Channel to revive the Soul Train Music Awards. This was a pleasant treat for longtime fans, proving that Soul Train was still relevant in today's modern culture. It was not the end of the story. When basketball legend Magic Johnson bought the rights in 2011 with Intermedia Partners, it was another huge step forward. They wanted to celebrate the brand with grandiose stage shows, films, and even themed cruises. In order to maintain the atmosphere for viewers in the late hours of the night, Johnson's Aspire TV also started airing replays. Cornelius passed away tragically in 2012, but Soul Train's impact continued to grow. Fans may truly sail away with the music and culture that once dominated an era when Centric launched the Soul Train Cruise in 2013. The brand also found a new home in 2016 under Paramount Global, which made sure Soul Train remained a vibrant part of entertainment history by acquiring the library, awards, and cruise events, DVDs, internet streaming, cruises, television monitors, and award presentations. Soul Train proved its influence was too great to fade. The hippiest journey in America may have strayed from its original plan, but it found new avenues to pursue. Music, dance, the Soul Train experience, and enduring customs. Soul Train was not just a musical performance. It was a full cultural encounter. Viewers knew they were in for something unusual as soon as the cartoon train with the colorful smoke trails and hip music rolled onto the screen. That opening alone foreshadowed one of the most innovative and stylish shows ever to air on television. To keep viewers interested, the show's design combined personality, competition, and entertainment. The Soul Train Scramble Board, where dancers had to scurry to unscramble letters to reach a famous person's name, was one of its standard elements. Despite the fact that it seemed to be a game of wit, Don Cornelius subsequently admitted that the game was frequently designed to guarantee winners since, to him, victory and dignity were more significant than losing or winning. The Soul Train line, which was based on earlier dance routines like the stroll, was unquestionably the most iconic emblem. For every dancer and performer who had the opportunity to appear on the show, the line was a rite of passage. Individuals or couples made their way down the center of the route established by 2 rows of performers, showcasing their individual styles and best dancing moves. This was more than just amusement. The Soul Train was the source of countless dance moves and moments that would be copied all over the world. Additionally, the event served as a platform for talent. The series served as a springboard for dancers like Rosie Perez, Jeffrey Daniel, Dieta Joe Freeman, and Cheryl Song to become more well-known. Some even went on to become well-known musicians, such as Jody Watley, who became successful as a member of the Shalimar Ensemble. Soul Train wasn't limited to just one art form, as evidenced by the variety of guest spots that went beyond music, including comedians and cultural luminaries. Not to mention the catchphrases. The voice of Cornelius got ingrained in the show. His voice matched the beat of the music, from his characterizations of it as the hippiest trip in America to his iconic farewell sign-off with love, peace, and soul. Along the way, Soul Train created a sense of community, in addition to memorable performances. Not even the famous people that took the stage were the main focus. The group of dancers, spectators, and onlookers who felt included was the focus. The show's unique fusion of style, music, and energy ensured that viewers would remember it as a cultural phenomenon that influenced generations rather than just as a television program. Don Cornelius's early life and career. Born on the south side of Chicago on September 27, 1936, Don Cornelius grew up in the Bronzeville neighborhood. He enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps after graduating from Dable High School in 1954, and he spent about a year and a half in the Korean War. Cornelius tried his hand at several other occupations after leaving the service. He worked as a Chicago police officer and marketed tires, cars, and insurance. Despite the difficulties, he persisted in trying to discover his path. With a wife, 2 sons, and just $400 in his bank account, Cornelius took a risk in 1966 by quitting his day job to attend a 3-month broadcasting school. Immediately, it paid off. He started working at Chicago's WV radio station as an announcer, news reporter, and disc jockey. His skill and charm quickly gained popularity. Additionally, he relocated to Chicago in 1967 to work as the host of the news program, A Black's View of the News at WCIU-TV. Cornelius came up with another idea by 1970 that will completely change television. On WCIU-TV, he launched Soul Train as a local daily show. A year later, it moved to Los Angeles and went national. Gladys Knight and the Pips, Bobby Hutton, Honeycon, and Eddie Kendricks were among the guests on the inaugural nationally broadcast episode. After being inspired by the civil rights movement and starting out as a reporter, Cornelius discovered that African American entertainers had limited opportunities to showcase their skills on television. He changed this because he wanted to. Cornelius introduced numerous black musicians to a larger audience. As the host, creator, and author of Soul Train, dancers were given a chance to shine, and celebrities like Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, James Brown, and Aretha Franklin all made appearances on the show. Soul Train, according to Spike Lee, is an urban music time capsule that captures the spirit, fervor, and inventiveness of the era. Fun wasn't the only goal of the show. At a time when African Americans were rarely featured on television, outside of guest appearances on white-focused series, it helped spread the message that black is beautiful. Cornelius introduced African American culture to the general public, and the show gradually won over white viewers as well. Cornelius is known for his distinctive catchphrases, his deep, smooth voice, and his signature afro, which changed with the times. And you can bet your last money, it's all going to be a stone gas, honey. He would often conclude the show with these words: "I'm Don Cornelius, and as always imparting, we wish you love, peace, and soul." It was shortened to just, "And as always, we wish you love, peace, and soul," after he left, and it continued to be used until the 2006 episodes. Cornelius tried acting in addition to hosting, and he liked unconventional openings like, "We got another sound coming out of Philly. That's a sure enough dilly." He played a record producer named Mo Fuzz in the 1988 movie Tapeheads and Bruce Willis in the 1987 mockumentary The Return of Bruno, among other small screen acting performances. In the second, Cornelius hosted a local Detroit show called Bless My Soul and introduced a performance by The Temptations, a fake vocal group led by Bruno Radolini. These were fun contributions to his career, but Soul Train would always be his signature sound. The family and personal life of Don Cornelius. Don Cornelius had a far more complex and private life, despite being most known for Soul Train and his extravagant television character. Cornelius had multiple marriages, and while he kept a large portion of his private life private, his private life frequently garnered as much attention as his professional endeavors. His marriage to Russian model Victoria Chapman, whose real name is Victoria Ayla Cornelius, is among his most well-known unions. Rumors of conflict and legal disputes, including restraining orders and a 2008 domestic abuse case, plagued his marriage. These conflicts revealed a side of Cornelius that was very different from the calm, affable demeanor he displayed on TV. Despite these problems, he had a strong devotion to his family, particularly his kids. The focal points of Cornelius's life were his 2 boys, Andre and Tony. Despite juggling the demands of running a nationally syndicated TV show, he is frequently described by those close to him and in the entertainment industry as a father who loved his family very much. It was difficult to juggle job and family obligations, and reports suggest that he occasionally became emotionally estranged from his family due to work-related stress. Nevertheless, despite his success, business ventures, and personal problems, he nevertheless made an effort to maintain strong ties with his kids and family. In addition to marriage and children, Cornelius had mentorship and friendships that were just as intimate as family. He valued close personal relationships, as evidenced by the many dancers and artists who worked under him, attesting to his support and direction. He was notorious for taking pleasure in the accomplishments of others, particularly young performers who looked up to him as a representation of brilliance. There were also times of loneliness and reflection in Don Cornelius's private life. Behind the smooth voice and confident demeanor was a person who occasionally struggled with despair and the scrutiny of public life. He could also be warm and reserved, sharing tidbits of himself only with those he cared about. According to friends, in the end, Don Cornelius's private life was a mashup of devotion, love, and conflict. His relationships and life were complex, the characteristics of human weakness as well as the shortcomings of celebrity. Despite being immortalized by Soul Train, the true complexity of the man was shown through his off-camera life and his work as a husband, father, and friend. Cornelius led a contradictory existence. He had a lasting legacy that extended beyond the screen to the hearts of people who had personally interacted with him. With public achievement at one extreme and personal struggle at the other, Don's personal hardships and legal issues. When Don Cornelius was arrested at his Mulholland Drive home in Los Angeles in October 2008, he found himself in serious legal problems. The legendary Soul Train presenter, who had been in the public eye for decades, faced a startling turnaround when he was charged with felony domestic abuse. Within days of the arrest, Cornelius was freed on bail, but the legal proceedings were only beginning. Cornelius appeared in court in November 2008 on charges of witness dissuasion from reporting to the police and spousal abuse. His formerly private personal life became even more complicated and publicly visible as a result of the charges. His estranged wife, Russian model Victoria Ayla Cornelius, better known by her stage as Victoria Chapman, made the allegations. As evidence of the conflict and strain in their relationship, she had already obtained 2 restraining orders against him. The court case continued until December 2008. Cornelius entered a not guilty plea to the spousal abuse accusations during this court appearance. In addition to the gravity of the charges, Cornelius had always been seen as a cool-headed person in show industry, which is why the case garnered a lot of media attention. Many fans found it difficult to reconcile the well-liked Soul Train host's public persona with the grave accusations he was dealing with in his private life. Cornelius was eventually subject to limitations, such as being forbidden to speak to his divorced wife. Among the actions taken to ensure safety and prevent repeat disputes were the court orders. These court cases simply ran counter to Cornelius's reputation as the smooth-voiced host who brought dance, music, and joy into millions of American homes. Cornelius finally made a big decision about his legal status in March 2009. In order to avoid a trial and avoid admitting guilt, he amended his plea to no contest. After that, the court put him on probation for 36 months. Even though the matter was settled, it was nevertheless a challenging period in his senior years that had an impact on his emotional health and reputation. This incident served as a reminder that public personalities, even the most well-known ones, frequently have personal challenges that the public and admirers are unaware of for years. In stark contrast to the image of the brave, inspirational presenter, who had spent decades influencing American music culture, Cornelius's television career was a roller coaster ride that led to other groundbreaking and significant achievements. Decades later, accusations of sexual abuse arose. Many years after Don Cornelius's death, in 2022, shocking allegations about his personal life surfaced in the AAE documentary series, Secrets of Playboy. According to the series, Cornelius sexually assaulted 2 Playboy bunnies in the 1970s. The women stated that they were allegedly transported to Cornelius's house for 3 days, during which time they were sexually assaulted, drugged, tied, and locked in various rooms. The accusations sent shockwaves through the media, and among Soul Train fans who had long held Cornelius in high regard as the show's renowned presenter. Since the alleged instances are reported to have happened decades before the accusations were made, no one was able to get concrete evidence or verify facts. Due to the passage of time and the lack of contemporaneous reports, these accusations had mostly relied on the women's testimonies. The accusations prompted a response from Cornelius's family. In a statement, his son Tony Cornelius called the charges an unbelievable story without real proof. Tony questioned the veracity of the charges, pointing out that they were made years after the alleged events. In addition, he reminded everyone of his father's lengthy career in entertainment, which included contributions to dance, music, and African American representation on television. The accusations raised the issue of how to keep a person's private life and public achievements apart. Fans found it difficult to reconcile the startling accusations with Cornelius's seminal contributions to society and television. A broader public conversation about holding celebrities accountable, while analyzing the challenges of allegations over decades, was reflected in the opinions expressed by the media, social commentators, and spectators over the charges. It should be mentioned that because these accusations surfaced so many decades after the alleged incidents, Cornelius was never actually tried or found guilty on them. The accusations were discussed in public rather than through the court system, and legal action was not possible. Nevertheless, the movie brought to light questionable facets of Hollywood's past, highlighting the ways in which some incidents had remained unreported or concealed for many years. The chapter will serve as a reminder to some that even idols who are universally revered can have complex, occasionally sinister sides that the general public was unaware of. Even though Don Cornelius will always be recognized for his groundbreaking contributions to music and television, the accusations cast a shadow that muddled the man behind Soul Train's legacy. The cost of fame and Soul Train dancers. Soul Train was more than just a television show for almost 20 years. It was a force of culture. Every week, tens of millions of people tuned in to see the newest dance fads, hear the hottest new songs, and be in awe of the artist's enthusiasm and style. The performance served as a lighthouse for Black expression, dress, and music. Although the audience saw the glamour, and excitement of the performers on camera, the dancers' backstage lives were far more complex. Some of the challenges and hardships these dancers faced, many of which were never publicly discussed during the show's heyday, are highlighted in the 2023 musical Hippest Trip, the Soul Train musical. The discovery that dancers were regularly underpaid for their labor was perhaps the most shocking. Rather, they were told that they would gain exposure by working on national television. While it's true that the Soul Train gave dancers a platform and occasionally opened doors for them, it didn't put money in the bank or give them actual cash as payment for their labor. Regardless of the show's enormous success, this gave most people a sense of undervaluation. The competitive nature of the situation is also shown in the show. The lead spots in the Soul Train line, where dancers showcased their particular moves, or the best locations in front of the camera were up for grabs. Fame, thunderous applause, and possibly the chance to be remembered by their audiences could result from appearances in the correct setting. But it also meant that the pressure would never be released. In order to stand out, dancers put in a lot of overtime, often at the expense of their personal comfort or well-being. Backstage anxiety frequently permeated the stage, which in televised performances appeared lighthearted and carefree. The Greek dancers made a lasting impact on the event and popular culture in spite of these challenges. They were fashion pioneers, establishing dance, hairstyles, and fashion trends that would define future generations. Their enthusiasm and inventiveness were vital to Soul Train's fame and reputation, despite the fact that they weren't usually adequately compensated. By giving the dancers the respect they deserve and demonstrating to the audience how much work goes into each performance, the musical appreciates these efforts. Hippest Trip also serves as a reminder that many people's stories are occasionally overlooked in any creative show. Soul Train's music and culture were praised. However, the struggles and sacrifices of the dancers, who contributed to the visually stunning and enduring show, were not always subject to public discussion. The musical provides a more thorough and accurate portrayal of what life was truly like behind the scenes by sharing their stories. In addition to being performers, the Soul Train dancers set trends, influencing the fashion and culture of their era. Their influence endures to this day, inspiring upcoming dancers and performers. Even though Soul Train brought joy and excitement to millions, it's important to think about the people who worked hard to make it a memorable event. The Hippest journey. These stories that were previously ignored by the spotlight are finally heard and respected. thanks to the Soul Train musical. There was more to Don Cornelius than just hosting television. He was an architect of culture. Through Soul Train, he established a platform that not only provided entertainment, but also revolutionized the way the world saw Black identity, dress, and music. The show provided millions of people a cause to watch, appreciate, and feel proud of a culture that the mainstream media had frequently overlooked or marginalized for 35 years. However, Cornelius's tale was not just one of success. Personal hardships, disputes, and complex relationships that went behind the famous dance routines and lighting revealed a very human aspect to the guy who is frequently remembered for his soothing demeanor and silky voice. His life served as a reminder that even visionaries have challenges, from legal issues to criticism on the treatment of dancers. His impact on the history of entertainment, however, cannot be denied in spite of these shortcomings. As evidence of the Soul Train brand's enduring appeal across decades, it continued to be used for award presentations, cruises, revivals, and digital platforms following the show's conclusion. Even though Cornelius passed away in 2012, his influence on culture endured. His vision of love, peace, and soul was carried forward by every rhythm, dance move, and performer who took the stage. Ultimately, Soul Train was more than just dancing and music. It was about community, representation, and providing a forum for perspectives that should be heard. Despite his flaws, Don Cornelius left behind an enduring legacy that inspires and serves as a reminder of the profound cultural influence that entertainment can have. His well-known parting remarks are still relevant today. That's the tale of Soul Train and Don Cornelius, a mashup of culture, music, and mysteries that many admirers have never discovered. If you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel for more tales like this one. Like it, and share it with your friends. As Don always said, love, peace, and soul. And thanks for watching.